order the workshop of the Shellrock River Watershed District for April 29th, 2021. Will you please call roll?
Manager Pistorius?
Here.
Manager Kramer?
Aye.
Manager Pasuski?
Here.
Manager Bakken?
Here.
Manager Hanson is not joined yet, and Manager Delger.
Aye. Okay, on to item number 2, public forum. The Shellrock River Watershed District is closed to the public. Anyone wishing to address the Shellrock River District Board of Managers during the public forum section of the meetings was noticed to submit their comments in writing no later than 4 p.m. the day prior to the scheduled meeting. Were there any comments?
Mr. Chair, there were no comments from the public regarding the special meeting of the Watershed District.
Okay. On to item number 3, approval of the agenda. Is there any additions, corrections, or deletions that need to be made to the rest of the agenda?
Mr. Chair, at this time, there is no additions, corrections, or deletions to the agenda.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Made by Manager Bakken. Do I have a second?
Second.
Made by Manager Pistorius. Any discussion? Hearing none, Leah, please call roll.
Manager Pistorius?
Aye.
Manager Kramer?
Aye.
Manager Pasuski?
Aye.
Manager Bakken?
Aye.
Manager Hanson is not joined. Manager Delger.
Aye. Motion carried. Item number 4, Administrator Andy Henschel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, the workshop was scheduled just to, again, inform all the board managers of multiple projects that the district is working on, including the Fountain Lake Restoration Project Phase 2. So if we all remember, Fountain Lake Restoration Project Phase 2 included roughly 670,000 cubic yards of material that would be removed from Danes Bay and the main portion of the lake. That work commenced in 2020 and will be completed here in 2021. Working with JF Brennan, they believe they will be done dredging if everything goes to plan by the middle of August of 2021 here. So the project again is going well. Again, with the CDF site or cells 2 and 3, we have again had site or cells 2 and 3 and are at the point where the DNR has permitted cell 2 to full use and has permitted cell 3 to 50% use at this time. So once we continue and oversee cell 3 as JF Brennan is filling cell 3, we can then move into hopefully obtaining full use of cell 3. With that, of course, those cells with those issues we had with both cell 2 and cell 3, again, if you remember back in early or mid 2021, or excuse me, 2020, with COVID, 2020 is like a blur. So we worked with both the contractor and the engineer, again, to remedy what we call fixes to both of those issues we had on both cell 2 and cell 3. We did that in cooperation with, again, both the engineer and the contractor to not delay the dredging or the progress of phase 2. But with that, there is some added cost that was obtained by the both district engineer and the contractor to resolve those issues. So at this time, we've made the board aware of some potential lawsuits. And as those move forward, I'm going to have Stephanie, if she's available here, to give us an update on how we're going to move forward with that. So
Okay.
Steph.
Thank you, Administrator Henschel. Good morning, board. So as you've heard Mr. Henschel explain, there, and you're aware there were concerns over design and construction of CDF cells 2 and 3. Concerns arose last summer, and this board approved outside counsel as early as last fall. And of course, we were anticipating litigation by the end of the year. Understand that with a project this size, it's not unusual for litigation to happen. I mean, this was a big project over a long period of time. And the good news is during the construction, the district, the engineers, the contractor worked together to fix the issues. And so as you've heard Administrator Henschel indicate, we are up and running, dredging's on track and is already occurring this season. And so where we're left right now is who's at fault for the issues and who pays then for the extra work that had to be done. And so that is the nature of the litigation that we're entering into now. The district is doing its due diligence and being fiscally responsible, of course, by engaging in this litigation, right? The district is saying this is not our fault. We're not responsible for the extra cost. So engineer and contractor, you guys figure this out. And so essentially it's going to be a battle of the experts in the litigation, determine fault and who pays for that extra work. The district has engaged, as you're aware, outside counsel and outside engineering that is on our team throughout this litigation. Mr. Henschel has been intimately involved with this process. He's kept the dredge committee very up to date on what is going on, and we have an additional meeting coming up probably in the next month or so, just again to get back up to speed as the lawsuit pursues. But we did want to take the opportunity to fill in again the entire board, and certainly if you have any questions throughout this process, it will not be a quick process. So if you have any questions throughout the process, reach out to Mr. Henschel and he can answer your questions. Again, we are hoping that as we did throughout the project, all of the parties are able to come to the table after the experts have done their work and find a resolution to this.
Thank you, Steph.
Welcome.
So that's kind of wraps up the discussion on phase 2, unless there's any questions from the managers on Fountain Lake Restoration Project phase 2.
I have one quick question. Do you kind of have an idea of where the dredge will be like throughout the bay? Are they going to keep moving in a west to east fashion? Like, will that bay, what kind of the bay area be done around 4th of July where a lot of boats congregate, or anything like that? You can give us an idea where the dredge will be throughout the summer.
I can't. And the reason I say that is right now, Mr. Kramer, they're dealing with the fish window. So they're getting into the areas where they have the permit in place now to dredge. Once that fish window is up, then they can get into those closer areas to shore. One of the reasons that they did move out of or away from the bay where they were at here the last 2 days is they did run into an abandoned utility, which no one knew about. So right now I'm in the midst of working with Ryan Sands with JF Brennan on, if we want to have any offsets to that new utility that was discovered yesterday. We've done our due diligence, or I should say JF Brennan's done their due diligence, reaching out to all parties, phone, electrical, gas, the city of Albert Lea, trying to figure out what this utility was. It seems to be about a 3-inch pipe. Again, there's no telephone lines or anything running into it. Nobody has any idea what it is or where it came from. So again, once we figure that out, the idea is they'll come back into that area. But as far as that's concerned, again, they're gonna try to get wherever they can that they're allowed to with those fish windows and all their other setbacks that they have to meet. So I don't have a direct answer to your question, but I'm guessing that they'll be more out in the middle of the lake by the time July 1st or July 4th comes around. And of course, at those times, we always make preparations to try to place everything out of the way so that the boaters still have access to the full lake during that time period. Any other questions? All right, moving on to item B, the Fountain Lake Restoration Project Phase 3 discussion. This one is, of course, got a lot of interest from, of course, the landowners around the lake that really want to see the main bay of the lake dredged and the areas in Bancroft Bay. Of course, this is part of our ongoing discussion with our local representatives on the additional 7.5 million in bonding dollars that we have requested from the state. What I can tell you is there's still a lot of work going on behind the scenes with both Representative Bennett and Senator Dornick and myself. We feel that we have, some good battle lines drawn as far as the savings that it can potentially save the district for not having to have a contractor remob and demob. Of course, because we're a public entity, we still have to go through the phases of bidding a project. So we can assume that we'll save those if JF Brennan gets the bid with reduced costs for not having to remob and demob. We estimate that cost at roughly $600,000 to remob and demob. And again, that cost is only increasing with the increased cost in fuel, as we have all seen. But some of the other discussions I want to have with the board on this phase 3 as we move forward here is one thing that Representative Bennett and also Senator Dornick are receiving questions from the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources where they are asking us to get our permit in for the dredge extents and dredge limits for both Main Bay and the Danes Bay area. And that is good news that the initial communications early in the process. If you remember when we originally put in our dredge permit, it included Mains Bay and Danes Bay. And at that time, they wished for us to take those out. However, now is the time that they are asking for a chance to be able to review that. However, with that comes, of course, extra cost because we have to pay for the engineers to develop that. We got to go through again the EAW for those portions, which should be as easy as basically cut and paste or copy and paste from the first one we did. But there's still some dollars associated with that. So I guess what I would be asking the board is probably at our main meeting. I will bring you guys a engineer's estimate from Randball. I believe it's going to be right around $45,000 to $46,000, which would take us through the permitting process. And again, that's just for the dredging in the lake. That will not include the permitting process or the engineering for what we are calling cell 4, which would be needed for that. One thing I can say about cell 4, because we believe, talking with JF Brennan, that we will have some additional storage that we can meet with our existing cells. That cell 4 can be, I don't want to say substantially smaller, but quite smaller, quite a smaller footprint than what was originally expected. So again, it's going to be up to the board if we want to move forward with that. I will have Carmen sort of run some financials to make sure that that works for the board and that we can, incur those additional costs for engineering. But again, as we move through this process, we have to think about the land and the purchase and the option agreement for additional cell, which would be cell 4. Again, the board, I had a board manager work with me and a landowner in an area where we feel cell 4 would be a large benefit to the district at quite a bit of reduced cost due to the fact that it borders basically some of the existing cells. So again, we don't have to add any new infrastructure to that area. So in the future, you'll probably be seeing an option agreement with that landowner to move forward with that. Again, however, that does not include engineering and initial site work that needs to be done, such as soil borings to make sure the area will work for cell 4. But we have very good history in that area, so we feel that this site would work quite well for the cell 4. So you guys will be seeing that from me as well. Some other discussions that we will probably be having in the future is, again, JF Brennan is looking at completing phase 2 here in August. We do have some flexibility in our cubic yards. In our original permit, I believe there's roughly 50 or 60,000 additional cubic yards that we could go after. This is something that the board could think about to keep JF Brennan on the lake a little bit longer, if we so desire. The only question that I need to work out is with the permitting agency or with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, because we would probably be going outside of some of our existing extents. So I'm not sure they'll allow us to do that. But I think we've worked pretty well together. So if we wanted to go after an additional 50, 60,000 cubic yards that are just outside the extent of what we have in phase 2, that's a possibility. So I will be bringing those options to the board as we move through this process here this summer. So that's pretty much all I have for that. Any questions on potential phase 3 discussion? All right. Well, hearing none, I'm going to move on to item C. This is the Headwaters property. For those that have been on the board for a while, this is a property that was donated to us by a landowner when the district acquired the 257 acres there just south of the Albert Lee Lake Dam. This was a piece that was donated to the district. This is about a 5.5 acre parcel. It does have a few buildings. It has a house, a newer garage, two-stall garage. It has an older two-stall garage and a lean-to. There was a living trust on this property that was donated to the district. Sad to say that the individual that had the living trust there has passed away. So now it's fully within the ownership of the district, and it's kind of something that we need to figure out what we want to do with it. So with that, I'll probably be bringing some options here, possibly in the May meeting of what or how to move forward with that property. I'll just state some of the options we have are to just sell the property as is and put those funds back into the general fund. Another option is to put the property out for lease for the gravel rights underneath the property. Some of the other options are to, again, sell, excuse me, sell one of the garages on the site, I believe would be able to be moved, and tear down the house and then turn it over to the DNR as part of that whole Headwaters public hunting area. So we have some options there, but I'll be bringing those options to the board and allowing the board to make some decisions on how to move forward with that process, or that property, excuse me. Any questions regarding the Headwaters property? All right, hearing none. The last item I have is, again, an update on the country club property. Again, for those that have been on here for a while, we purchased this property back in, I want to say 2012, 2013. This was a key piece of property for us to save a substantial amount of money for wetland replacements. If you remember, we had a wetland bank on that property of roughly almost 16 acres. And the 16 acres wetland bank, we used roughly 8 of those acres for wetlands that we disturbed in the construction of the CDF cells 1 and 3. And because of that, we did not have to go out and purchase wetland bank credits on the open market, which would have cost us about $23,000 an acre. So it was a substantial savings for us. We were also going to use the property from some staging of the dredge project. However, we did find some other areas to help us stage the dredge equipment on the lake that worked better than that property. So at this time, that property has pretty much limited value to the district. So it's my feeling that the best thing we can do is try to, again, move forward, sell the property and put those funds back into our projects as we move forward here. If you remember, we hired Leland Realty back in, I want to say it was November, December. We have since extended that agreement for 6 months. We're hoping to see some more movement. Office offers on the property at this time. We have received some what I would call lowball offers, but again, none of those have been in writing. So as we move forward, hopefully, we can get some better offers in. The agreement, again, is only for 6 months. If we do not see much for movement here in the next 6 months, we can look at listing it elsewhere if that is the board's wishes. But that's just an update, again, on the country club property. The one thing to note with that is the wetland bank will stay in possession of the district. So there will be some guidance to the buyer on what those restrictions are as far as the wetland bank. Again, those restrictions are pretty much just not impacting the wetland bank at this point. So any discussions or questions regarding the country club property?
We have a number we listed it for.
Yeah, Randy, remember what we had it listed for?
Yeah, I believe the number was right around 625,000.
Sounds right.
How close are the offers?
I would say less than half of that. But again, as we move forward, once we get actual offers in writing, we will then bring those again. We have been discussing this as far as the exec committee is concerned. Again, but no action will be taken until we bring it to the full board. But we can have some of those discussions on lowering our asking price as we move forward. Once we get some updates again from our realty company, and we can go from there at those points. But right now, I think we want to, stay pretty firm and just sort of see how it plays out here the next few months. And then again, give us a few months on the back end to maybe reduce some of our asking prices, or at least look at some solid offers that are, in writing for the board.
I think, with this whole pandemic thing, it's probably slowed up a lot of this. And hopefully that'll change now that it's starting to loose up a little bit. Get some good offers.
Yep, I would agree. So, Mr. Chair, with that, that's all I have, unless again, there's anything that the board would like to discuss regarding the country club property.
Any more questions for Administrator Henshaw?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Go on to item 5, managers items again. Do we have any managers items? Hearing none. Item number 6, upcoming meetings. We're back to our regular board meeting on May 11th. And we're still trying to determine our annual meeting.
Mr. Chair, for the annual meeting, I'm thinking sometime August, September, October, somewhere in there. Once we see, hopefully, again, like you said, hopefully this COVID stuff will start loosening up, and we'll see less and less restrictions, so that we can have more of an in-person meeting again with the public, and
What board of managers are up for election this year?
That's a good question. I was thinking of that same thing. Manager Pistorius was asking what board members are up for election this year.
Yes, we have Mr. Hanson and Mr. Pasuski up for election this year. So again, I'll be working with Tom Jensen here late May to get that advertised. And again, I'll talk with both Mr. Hanson and Pasuski to see if they're definitely interested in returning and putting their, again, name in the hat for board appointment. I believe that occurs end of June, first part of July. We swear in the managers.
When we have our annual meeting? After that? I don't know.
Yeah, that depends on, I'm not sure.
I didn't hear the question, Mr. Chair.
Then again, then,
Isn't that when we have the annual meeting? When that election is done and election the officer, I don't know.
No, we've usually had our annual meeting in March. It's always been right after the regular board meeting in March. However, last year, due to the pandemic, we did not have an annual meeting. But this year we do want to have an annual meeting. So again, things are pretty much locked up here in March. So that's why it's sort of been determined that we'll try to push it out later in the year. Again, appointments, we usually, again, swear in the managers either in the June or July meeting. And then right after that, we do the election of officers.
then we would have our annual meeting after that.
Correct, yep.
Could.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there anything else we need to discuss? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Manager Pasuski. I have a second.
Second.
By Manager Pistorius. Leah, please call roll.
Manager Pistorius,
Aye.
Manager Kramer,
Hi.
Manager Besuski,
Aye.
Manager Bakken,
Aye.
Manager Hanson,
Aye.
Manager Delger.
Aye. Motion carried. We are adjourned. Everybody stay safe.